welcome to One More Thing podcast. This morning I'm joined with Pastor Larry Baucom.
Good morning.
He is risen.
He is risen indeed.
So we do this every Easter Sunday. What's kind of a brief history of that repetitive?
You know, I'm not really sure. I just know since the early days they would come up as a symbol of greeting. I mean, they used to actually, one of their greetings was one guy would make a half of a circle in the sand with his foot, and the other guy would come back and complete that as a fish.
The ictus, right?
Ictus, yes. Yeah. And that was one of the greetings. And I think the early church, and I don't know when. I just know it's been a part of the greeting for a long time. Maybe you know more. What do you think?
No, I was wondering. I know when we add the indeed, that it gives that element of certainty, like this is what we hold on to. It's our hope, our belief, and it's a very powerful statement when we talk about the resurrection.
Yeah, I love to say, He is risen, not He has risen.
That's right. He is risen.
Yeah, so that's a very contemporary, present day, amazing truth.
That's right. Because you made that statement yesterday in all three services, and I think it's a very powerful reminder that resurrection, as we frame it within the Christian context, is not a one-time event that took place in history. Like, explain that to us.
Well, I think that 2,000 years ago, they went to the tomb, it was empty, and it'd be very much okay to go back and say, well, that was the event. But the real question is, has Christ come alive in you? And that is the current contemporary. He is risen, and the Spirit of Christ lives in us.
That's right.
And when I recognize that He comes alive again, I think we can play the whole resurrection, the seasonal game. Spring, things come back to life. It's kind of things are resurrecting. Summer is growth. Fall, things start to die off. Winter, they die. Mm-hmm. And spring comes back. There's a cycle.
That's right.
Of life and death and resurrection. Yeah. And I think we celebrate that at Easter time more specifically, but it's about the current is the presence of Christ. What's happening in your life today? Yeah. Because it's not just an event back there.
That's right. And Easter's always situated in springtime.
Right.
To remind us of that rebirth, that regrowth, so surrection, I know it's got insurrection, we hear a lot about that politically, but it's a geological term. And to resurrect something means to bring it back. And I think, as sort of pastors who think outside the limitations of evangelical theology, like, we understand that resurrection is bigger than just the gospel accounts. And I think even Jesus points to that there's a resurrection in our hearts that brings us to new life, to be reborn. I mean, that's what He says. And I think that we've misconstrued being born again as some sort of... Yeah.
So let me ask you a deep theological question.
Go for it.
Where did the bunny rabbits come from at Easter time?
I saw this meme. I follow this guy, the New Evangelicals. He's a pretty progressive theologian, and he's funny. And he posted this meme of this old, ancient picture of Jesus holding the Bible and doing the peace sign. And on the Bible, the shadow was a bunny.
So it comes forward.
And it said they just misinterpreted Jesus' peace sign as the bunny rabbit on the shadow page.
There's something that comes around, though. One of the facts, trivia, that I looked at recently, and it seems like from Europe at a certain time, there's a lot of rabbits, and that the Dutch take responsibility for bringing it to this country, the Easter bunny or the rabbit. And that what happened is because everything we know, they're breeding like rabbits. That means there's life, there's all kinds of reproduction. I mean, there's just but with the life and the life and all the life that rabbits bring, that they brought this same phenomena to connect to Easter, because Easter is about life and abundance of life.
Yes.
So this rabbit, and the fact that they're so prolific in breeding, has been connected to the Easter season and life. And I thought that was kind of a interesting fact.
Yeah.
And the Dutch and Pennsylvania Dutch, they really say, we brought the first bunny here and the whole blah, 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 whatever. And now you get Reese's peanut butter eggs. I don't know.
Oh, man.
I mean, but the
Chocolate
connections,
galore,
the connections are there, but they really don't have a lot of history. 1700 is not
Yeah.
a lot of history in what we're talking about. We're going back thousands of years.
That's right.
And seeing something that's been reoccurring for a long time.
That's right on. So what would be, growing up in Louisiana, we had this thing we do every year. We dye the Easter eggs, and we call it pocking eggs. Have you ever heard of that? So you'd challenge your uncle or your cousin. You'd hold your egg, and someone would hold the egg above it and go, pop. And whoever's egg would crack would lose, and you'd try to have the undefeated egg. It's like some of my favorite memories of Easter surround these sort of traditions that we have, but that have no connection to the event of the resurrection.
Yeah, that's new to me.
Yeah,
so,
the Pock and Eggs.
Yeah, Pock and Eggs. That's
Pock and Eggs it was so fun, and my kids do it now when we have pocking contests. But why do we feel this need, Dr. Baucom, to attach these deep spiritual truths to very simplistic sort of festivities, I guess?
Yeah.
Like, is it just to remember, to not forget? Is it?
I think so. I think that within many cultures, there's the concept of seasons and the concept of life, death, resurrection. And, there's also the fact that we carry all that around with us. And we need to die out to some things so that life can come back alive again. I know some of the Larry Baucom that is not the best me. Some of that stuff needs to go away.
Right.
So, and the way it happens to go away is that there's this new life, the real me, the real self, the big I, the big self
That's
versus
right.
the small self. You try to, and there's psychological terms for that, but I think it's just trying to let some of that stuff go so that we can live in this new life. I don't know anyone that really enjoys the worst person, the worst version of themselves.
That's right.
They want to step up and be a better version. Sometimes they get aggravated, and I see people aggravated, and you kind of go ahead and say, what really is going on?
Yeah.
Well, you don't realize that family issues, dynamic things, financial stress, all these things are behind it. And what you see is a result of everything they're carrying. How do we deal with that? And sometimes it'd be great to say, just let all that go, but they can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they have to work their way through the struggle and sometimes through the darkness. But when you can come out of the darkness into the light and grab hold of something that creates hope,
Yeah.
that life can be better, I think that's the Easter season.
That's what it's all about. So I want to ask you this final question. It's a kind of a stump the pastor, stump the doctor question. Because this is a question I get posed to me this time of year by my friends and colleagues in academia. The standard traditional theological position of evangelical Christianity was that Jesus suffers, dies for the sin of humanity. So he's a sacrifice. But he comes back. Where's the sacrifice in him knowing, like, I got to go through this rigorous and tumultuous ordeal, but I'm coming back.
Yeah.
We send guys to war zones with no guarantee of coming back for things that I would deem less valuable than the eternal place of my soul in the
Right.
cosmos, for things like democracy or so-called freedom, with no guarantee. How would you respond to someone who makes that claim? Like, where's the sacrifice in that? Or do we have a different view of what actually took place on Easter?
I think it's a different view. I don't think the sacrificial system flies for me anymore. I think it used to, but that God so loves the world that he has to sacrifice something so that he can feel good about himself seems very inconsistent. I think that, and there's people who would argue vehemently that, hey, Jesus came as a sacrifice for our sins so that humanity could be restored to the nature of God. And I'd go, yeah, I understand that. But we pour meaning into a lot of things. And the Jewish sacrificial system is an ancient system. It's not just Jewish, but many ancient religions had this same sacrificial thing. And there needs to be a virgin in white who sacrificed to Kraken the god to satisfy
right.
his anger. And we borrow those themes and we try to plug them in, but I don't think they fit well. I think a proper understanding of God and who he is, that, did Jesus really have to die? Good question. Some people say, absolutely, that was God's plan. For me, I'd say, I don't think so. I think that if the world had embraced the message of the love of God, that Jesus, did not have to die. But he didn't die for my sins. He died because humanity could not handle the legal religious groups, the imperialism of that day could not handle it. It's better to kill him off so that we can maintain the status quo. But I think you can kill off that all day long, and it's still going to come back around.
That's right.
The right thing is going to be the right thing, and the right thing is the love of God. It's the presence of Christ. It's not let's kill him and put him on a cross and put him in a tomb, because you can't bury true love. Love is the answer to the woes of humanity, whether you're Christian or Buddhist or whatever. It's this love that helps us make it through life. It gets us through, that brings light at the end of the day and hope where there seems to be no hope. So I'm not a guy that believes that Jesus had to be sacrificed, but I think he wasn't sacrificed for my sins. I think we killed him. By we, I say collectively humanity, the religious leaders and the Roman leaders, and many within that. They just agreed to let him die for them, and or die for the system.
Yeah.
But you can't kill it, and it comes back. Always comes back.
Constant resurrection.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of the things I heard, that Jesus didn't die for sin. He died because of sin, because of our inability to love one another, and to love God, and to love others who have the presence of God in them and within ourselves. So
and I think that when Jesus appears in John 20 and he breathes on them, it says, receive the Holy Spirit. Receive the Spirit. Embrace this. While I was here for 33 years, you had me physically, but now guess what? My spirit is alive and well and can live in each of you.
That's right.
And you will do greater things, and you'll do more things. And the Spirit has not been snuffed out. It's still alive today, and therefore we say he is risen.
He is risen
and
indeed.
He is risen indeed. Absolutely.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Dr. Bach.
Pleasure.